I'd like to start off by welcoming the esteemed faculty, family, and friends to the Integrative Biology 2011 graduation. Partially because I had to give a speech in front of all you lovely people, but also mainly because I realized by the end of the speech, I'll no longer be a college student. Everyone's been telling me, you'll be entering the real world soon. As if going to bed at 2 every night and laying out on Memorial Glade wasn't real. But I'm sure graduating is something all of you fellow students have been panicking about. It's definitely raised my cortisol levels, maybe even elicited a sympathetic response or two. So instead of inducing an anxiety attack by thinking about the real world, I've decided to spend my last few minutes as a UC Berkeley undergrad by reminiscing about what makes Cal the happiest place on earth. So where do I begin? Yeah, the dorms, of course. Quite possibly the best days of my life. Who could complain about eating at Crossroads every day and singing in the shower with floor mates? There was never a dull moment in the dorms, probably because someone was always playing Super Smash Brothers, and people were always getting rated up for noise. I think my dorm experience was so great because that's where I met most of my good friends, including Will Toppin. If you don't know Will Toppin, oh man, let me tell you. He's a 4-year water polo player who's incredibly good at chemistry, extremely good looking, and he's sitting right at give everyone a wave, Will. Alright. So I think somewhere in that freshman year, all of us realized that having a social life wasn't that important to us. So we said, why don't we become bio majors so we can spend the next 3 years in the library? That's when the real fun began. Chem 1A, OChem, biochem, physics, genetics, the list goes on and on. In all honesty though, I think April Griffith and I could be the only people in this room that would actually marry organic chemistry. April and I were like an unstoppable OChem force, like Superman and Superwoman tackling one synthesis problem after the other. April is so good at organic chemistry, I think she's gonna name her first 2 babies SN1 and SN2. It was a long night. We spent studying together, joking about Dr. Peterson's amazing mustache. That helped forge a lifelong friendship. Then came Bio 1AL. Who could forget that lab practical? For those of you who aren't familiar with Berkeley classes, Bio 1A lab final is known to be one of the hardest finals at this school. The average is 20%. I mean, Bio 1A, the lowest number in the lowest letter, WTF. So let me tell you about this final. Every student rotates from station to station, answering questions about things like earthworm anatomy and the respiratory system of a crayfish. I still have no idea what a crayfish even is. So halfway through this final, I started laughing because it was either do that or start crying. And I will never forget the look that Gilad Jaffe gave me. It sent chills down my spine. I honestly thought he was going to stab me with his pencil. But again, another lifelong friendship was forged in that class. Semesters later, I spent my 21st birthday with Gilad taking shots. Too bad those shots were of Red Bull, and we were in the library studying for our physiology final. Mixed in between all the crazy classes, I remember going to football games in the fall, hanging out at Strawberry Canyon in the spring. I remember the rainy day when the fire alarm was pulled in 3 of my classes because kids had locked themselves in Wheeler Auditorium. By the 3rd fire alarm, I decided that it was a sign, so I joined the protest, only to almost get shot by a rubber bullet. It was super dodgy. I remember all the frat parties, all the co-op parties, all the house parties, all not as fun as OChem. I remember dodging flyers on Sprout during elections and talking to Joshua about the end of the world. FYI, I have it under good authority that the world ends next Saturday. I remember going on dates with Joyce and riding bikes in San Francisco. I remember watching Evan hit a game-winning shot in our last intramural basketball game and getting on and carry with my best friend Bill shot. It was a really big day for us when they switched over to the all-you-can-eat buffet. As much as I'd like to go on about my memories, I realized while writing this speech that more than the memories, it's the people I've met here at Cal that have made my college experience so wonderful. Amazing people like Jeff Shore, who rode on the men's crew team, was a manager of the basketball team, and who worked in Dr. Lehman's lab with me. People like Polly Alfie, who's the nicest girl I've ever met, and who makes me optimistic about the world's future. People like Mark Sinkay, who could be the best cycle ergometer rider this side of the Mississippi. He can also recall every one of Dr. Carlson's PowerPoint slides. I don't even know if Dr. Carlson can do that. People like Christine Javier, who's the first person in her family to graduate from college. Professors like Dr. Lehman, who rides scooter on stage to demonstrate the sliding filament theory. And professors like Dr. Brooks, who challenge the accepted theories of science. Grad students like Sean Gross and Shobi, who not only do research, but spend countless hours teaching and mentoring students like myself. I started this speech by expressing my anxiety towards graduating. But I think looking back at my experience at Cal has made me optimistic about the next chapters of my life. As enjoyable as it was, it's time for us to move on, meet more amazing people, and make more amazing memories. So before we leave this beautiful place, remember the good and learn from the bad. Thank your family and friends. Love you, Mom and Dad. And never forget, you will always be a California Golden Bear.